Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
All right, let's do a little business of sports here, brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Since we were talking schedule release here, I saw this. First off, it was, I believe, reported by Bloomberg, was the first one to do it, Bloomberg.com. But the NFL could let owners sell up to 30% of teams to private equity funds. According to Bloomberg.com, the quarterly meetings, this is from Pro Football Talk, the quarterly meetings held later this month could result in the passage of a rule allowing owners to sell up to 30% of the team to approved investment collectives. The most any one fund could own in any one team would potentially be 10%. It's possible that one fund could hold equity in multiple teams. The issue wasn't finalized at the league meetings in March. Roger Goodell pegged May or October as a more realistic target. The potential shift comes at a time when franchise values are skyrocketing to the point where it's hard to find individuals who can satisfy the league's ownership rules. When the rules allow private equity investments, existing owners could peel off a slice of the equity to sell to private funds. New owners could recruit equity funds to become part of the initial team of investors. Over time, it will make the purchase of 100% of a team far less common, since private equity funds will often remain in place after the transfer of control. What are your thoughts on that?
Not surprised.
Yeah.
The first thing that goes through the mind is, here comes Saudi Arabia. Sports washing, all of that. Well, they've been all over the place anyway. But more realistically, outside of the bright, shiny object that a lot of people would focus on, is the other part that you mentioned. There are not that many individuals and families that have that money.
Right, yeah. That's why you see a lot of, Washington, right? Magic Johnson, the investment groups. Mm-hmm. That term that you hear. Not everybody is like the Broncos and have Walmart heritage.
We've been hearing this more in the past couple years or so, 2-3 years of
the Bucs are like that, right?
The league struggled to find a potential owner that could, what? You're struggling? Because the values, I don't know if there's some way to cap the values, which I don't know why you'd necessarily want to do that, but if it's an either-or proposition. You either have the people hold on to the teams, and if they don't want them, that's odd, or you allow investment funds to get involved, because that's a collective. I'm curious, and I'm sure, I trust the NFL's worked this out already, but how you can have investments in multiple teams, at first blush,
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to, as much as I know it's the hot thing to be like, don't trust with the NFL. No, I'm going to trust that they have this set up so you don't have I don't know, I'm just going to make up the Jaguars and which I was going to say Steelers, and that's a horrible example, and the Jets are both partially owned by the same investment fund that's based out of Qatar or I don't know, out of Singapore or something. Mm-hmm. It's just used because that's what it would probably be. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong. That's where they would be. But then the people involved are can we do player swaps all the time? Wait, are they a collective franchise? It's not going to be. It'll be walled off some way.
Yeah, it would have to be, right? That's...
Otherwise you just presume that these teams I'm going to say that. Without knowing a thing about the details, I have to presume that's the case, because otherwise you're dealing with the integrity of the league itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's now the one team I don't have to worry about would be Green Bay, obviously. So that doesn't really factor into it. But okay, let's use your Vikings as an instance. Could it be possible that the Wolf family sells some equity into that?
I could see, in a general sense. I think they're doing so well with real estate because that's the Wilfs thing ultimately. Mm-hmm. And real estate is where all the money is nowadays anyway. They probably are going to be fine for a while. But they're also not local Minnesota guy wants to hold on to the team, and it's been in the family forever. But see, those are the ones where it's more likely to happen, I think, actually, versus like New Jersey folks who are involved with real estate. They got the money. But like a Bears situation, what if the McCaskies at a certain point are like, gosh, we don't have all of it? Or the Fords with the Lions, and get a little extra investment from an investment fund, but you're still owning the team, and it's still a local family ownership. I could see that happening in those cases probably more often, where they don't have the equity, where they don't have the capital that's coming in from other sources.
Right. Yeah.
Totally could see that happening. Do you think there's ever a chance... some of the hot taker types will occasionally bring this up. But is there ever a chance that, and maybe it's not even under Roger Goodell's tenure, because I don't think it would be anything imminent, that the NFL finally says, screw it, Packers, we're changing the ownership, we're going to do a 31-1 vote, and you guys are going to have an owner. We're changing the bylaws, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, I don't think they will.
And if only because they want, like, the books closed, stuff like that, so there's not this, well, see what happened to the Packers, so now you can extrapolate that to the other 31 teams, and the owners are sick of that.
Yeah. No, I don't think that'll happen.
Because it could happen. I hope it doesn't, because I love that there's something unique that way.
Yeah. No, I don't think it will.
Okay.
No. Then I want some refund with investments on my stock purchases, just saying.
Do you realize how controversial that would be?
Oh, God, that's where I don't think it would go down. No.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, no. So, since equity is kind of the word of this thing, and staying with the NFL, this whole, and I know this was something from the last few days, but the ESPN and NFL Network merger potential.
Yeah.
You heard about this, too? That ESPN and NFL and talks, and now you're kind of seeing some writing on the wall because NFL Network has let go of a lot of people.
So basically, you mean ESPN's merger with NFL Films Classic Games?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what it is now.
You're seeing like Total Access, right? The first show from NFL Network, no more now. That's gone, which is kind of weird to say because I still think of Rich Eisen. His book is called Total Access. We know their Good Morning Football show is moving to L.A. I think it's still moving to L.A.
It is, and there's that whole like, we don't know what it's going to be thing that's been dragging out for weeks.
Right.
Now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how this is all going to play. I think this would be a win for ESPN. I mean, to have control of the NFL Network and such.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when I think of the league networks, MLB Network, NBA, NFL to me is the top one in all that. I'm just surprised that they're willing to sell this off. And I know they're going through a little bit of a, change in philosophy, direct consumer sort of thing, but
ESPN is going to have the over the top that you can subscribe like a Netflix. Side note, you see Boomer Esiason's thing that he just said on the Fan in New York?
Oh gosh, no, I did not.
He thinks that the Christmas Day games are going to be sold to Netflix.
To Netflix?
To Netflix.
Okay. Boomer knows, I guess.
I guess. Well, if that happens, you heard it here via there or there via here first. So,
Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got Netflix, so I guess that wouldn't be a thing for me. But still,
they don't do too much live sports. That's the thing.
Well, the Tom Brady, maybe open the door for some, football stuff.
Side note to the side note, did you watch that?
I did not. I've seen enough clips so I could probably put together that it probably did watch the whole thing. So
pretty much at this point. But okay, so Netflix and a standalone ESPN, same thing. In effect, that's what it would be. That you would have an ESPN app, but to watch ESPN. That does make me wonder with like ESPN Plus, because one of the theories is that ESPN Plus would go away. I'm like, well, I have that, so what does that does that mean? I don't know what that means. But having the NFL content coming over and being a little more in-house, I'm more concerned about the journalistic rules, like the Tom Van Lathens and of the world have all their stuff kiboshed because you don't want to anger Goodell, so it's all pro.
Yeah,
I don't want to make it pro or anti, but there's nothing critical.
No, and
I don't want that.
And the other part of this too is that Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are now buddies and tag teaming it.
And I guess, they kind of had that with Mort. Of course, Mort was the type to allow. He was good for allowing that.
Yeah.
But will that work here?
I don't know.
Do they split their gigs or what?
Because you're right, that is the criticism of the NFL Network. I mean, they work for the league, so there's not that. And I know Mike Florio has been on that bandwagon. I mean, how many times? I think there's a weekly post about it, about, going after the NFL Network and their coverage and inability to call out their employer, which, I mean, not a lot of us do call out our employers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's an uncomfortable thing to do. And I don't know how much of that's going to happen. The ownerships are not fully cleared post Dan Snyder. The Bidwell thing is that's bad. I mean, you could make some cases that's Snyderific levels. Tepper just seems more like get a hold of yourself as opposed to bad dude.
So if the NFL, and then there's a equity, like, what is it? Who gets NFL gets equity in ESPN? Yeah, NFL would get equity in ESPN with this.
Thus owning ESPN.
Yeah, an equity stake. Yeah,
ostensibly be able to. The fear is then they can have final say over critical coverage.
Right.
Say, well, we own you, so you can't publish this.
So then the other part of this too, would that also mean, like, if I'm NBC or CBS, does ESPN get the cream of the crop in terms of games? Like Monday Night Football? Because what's been a criticism, Monday Night Football games have sucked for a while. Like the matchups. Sunday Night Football's been better.
Right.
Does that go?
Monday's, Monday's getting better, but you still have some... Okay. But I've heard this brought up a fair amount with the NBA discussions. Now that it appears as though Amazon is going to have the conference finals every other year. That's not a problem for me because thankfully I have a wife who's an Amazon diehard, so I already have Prime Video and I'm set. By chance, I am. If I were not married right now, I'd be like, oh, great. But and that talk of how the NBA is going further, both into pay and streaming, it's usually brought up how the NFL wants to be on free TV. I think because of distribution. They have we've talked about a couple of the NFL quirks where it seems as though they are the ultimate in greed. That's the stereotype of the current NFL. And that's not true. There's a lot of money that they're getting. There's a lot of truth in it, but it's not 100% true. I'll put it that way. I've talked about like the uniform ads, for example. Like by all accounts, Goodell thinks there's more value to the NFL of not having them on there because of the image, of the look, that it cheapens the look. Yes, you could make more dollars, but the value would ostensibly...
Protect the shield.
Right. It goes down. It's that image. Same here with free TV. Well, Mike, can you imagine the money you would make? They could make dollars, but the distribution goes down. Part of the appeal of the NFL is how many people are involved. The only sporting events that my mom cares about are Vikings games. And I'm always texting her on Sundays like, FYI, Vikings going to be on CBS at noon today, and she's watching. She doesn't care about anything else. She cares about the Twins. She likes baseball, but that's it. But she cares about that stuff. She is like the classic, very, very casual sports fan, and she'll watch on free TV. There are millions of them like that. And that gets the NFL interest going more and more and more.
Well, then it's going to be interesting when we get to that point when whoever takes over for Roger Goodell. Is it a newer mind vision where...
Right. You saw the change from David Stern to Adam Silver. There are a lot of philosophical changes.
Right.
We can debate if they're good or bad, but they're different. Or is it a Goodell acolyte? Or, it's not going to be identical.
Right.
Some of these things will probably hold, but not all. But the point about what you were saying about NBC, ABC, CBS getting upset about games going to ESPN potentially. Well, it's kind of a variation of the don't get into an argument with the man who buys ink by a barrel thing about don't get in a fight with the media. Because media will win. So you start offending the other networks and start giving them lesser games. One of them might be like, seems odd, but maybe we just won't do the NFL. And so more of those games are behind paywalls and more of them involve streaming and more people start complaining and that spread starts to go down. The NFL does not want that. They don't need to do that with ESPN. They could do other things with ESPN to make it more NFL friendly. And I don't mean that in a conspiratorial... maybe it ends up going that way with a lack of negative coverage, but I don't mean it that way. There are other ways you can do it besides screwing over the broadcast partners. I don't think that will happen, but it is something worth watching just in case.
I do, and I don't know if this is related into this too, but I mean, I would like to see Monday Night Football do some changes in terms of they brought Buck and Aikman. I know you and I have talked about Buck and Aikman. We don't have big problems with Buck and Aikman like a lot of people do, It seems like.
Right.
They finally solidified that, it seems like, because they've tried to figure out the next, announcing crew, and finally they solidified that.
Yeah, Monday Night Countdown crew is been boosted even more this year.
Well, yeah, Jason Kelsey's going over there, so that's
a thing.
That's instantly going to draw viewers. Probably the most famous football center of all time at this point.
Yeah.
It's Taylor Swift's brother-in-law. That's what it's going to be. Probably.
It's true.
But who's there? I'll be honest, because I don't watch a lot of pregames. I'm not a pregame watcher. You know this. I don't care if it's Monday night, Sunday night, afternoon. I'm not a big pregame watcher. It's not my thing.
No, once you got all the information in other ways, you don't need the pregames.
Well, and you know what? If there was one that was just for my team, I'd probably watch it. You know what I mean? Directed just towards my team.
Right. But thankfully, having a guy like Scott Van Pelt.
I do like SVP.
Yes,
I do like SVP.
Side note, and I've totally stolen that from SVP and Rosillo. SV Pod is back, and it's awesome. But thankfully, having him on the show makes the almost 100% eliminates the likelihood of Taylor Swift stuff getting brought up to Kelsey just because he's not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He gets that.
Yeah.
Other Travis Kelsey stuff, who knows? But yeah. But that's the thing for ESPN. That has really become their tentpole right now is Monday nights.
So does Ian Rappaport join Schefter on Monday Night Football then?
Maybe.
That sort of thing.
It's
the new Schefter-Mort thing?
Yeah. And now that...
What happens to Tom Pelissero, though?
Well, do they go to a different beat? Or maybe they leave. Well, then this is where the other networks come in. Who's your... I mean, obviously Glazer's with Fox.
Yeah. I don't think CBS has... It used to be Jason Lockenfora, but he's not there anymore.
So maybe
it's a CBS one, yeah.
Where they go. I know NBC kind of likes to do the Pro Football Talk Florio thing, so I don't know if they would do that.
Well, Peter King's gone, though, so does Tom go back to writing?
Maybe. Get vacuumed up by The Athletic.
Or replaces Peter King's Monday column.
Possibly.
Now we're just throwing out stuff like darts and seeing what sticks. But
that's probably what's going to end up happening because I'm sure the higher-ups at ESPN are going to be like, let's make this work somehow. Mm-hmm. If they're both under the fold, it's kind of like Duke and Kentucky getting all the top recruits back when, I can't believe we're now saying back when that was a thing. Now it's like, no, let's go off and chase NIL money so you can be a star somewhere else instead of getting stashed and just waiting for a draft a year later. But that's kind of what they used to do is stash all the players. This is stashing the talent. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to do that. I don't know if it will work, but they're going to try.
You know what? ESPN should, then try to go get Greg Olson to come over too. Just saying.
Yeah? Yeah, that's still unsettled.
It is. It's kind of quiet, isn't it?
No.
We don't know what's happening.
I
still have my doubts whether Brady's going to stick with that.
This is weird. That we are on May 8th. We are not 100% sure. 100% sure. I'd say we're 90% now. But we're not 100% sure that Tom Brady is going to be the guy.
Right.
Unless I'm missing something, and maybe there was some confirmation somewhere else. Don't speculate anymore. It's a lock. It's happening. But I have not seen that yet. There still seems to... the speculation has changed from will he do it to how is he going to do it. So I that's why I'm at 90 as opposed to 50 where I was at a long time. But it's not completely sure. So when is this going to get resolved? Maybe we'll find out this afternoon. But sometime I'd like to hear for sure.
Yeah, I quick Googled it, and he said back in March that he's still doing it, confirmed. So, but it's gonna be weird.
Yeah,
it's gonna be weird. It's not gonna be. This is an article from Front Office Sports. Won't be a 3-person booth. So, yeah, I gotta see how this thing works out.
Yeah.
I gotta see how this works out. So
that is strange.
All right. That's your Business of Sports, brought to you by Security Financial Bank.